Hello, everyone. So here is Moonlight Soul with my co-host Marisa from Growing the Flow, and this is Stars and Cards, episode 7, part 1, because we halving them not to make them too long. So welcome, Marisa. It's nice to see you again.
It's nice to see you too here in the co-host capacity. We meet at the end, almost at the end of the month now. So we've come all full circle.
Exactly. We met. This part 1 will be about the full moon in Aries, because this is a special one and is the prelude to eclipses. But we will make another episode about the eclipses. But then in our part 2, we want to talk about the energies for the beginning of October, because there'll be a lot of shifts happening astrologically. So yeah, should we dive in?
Yes, let's dive in so we can kind of feel into this super full moon. I have the moonology cards pulled out, just as I've just started barely, I'm going to be dipping into it this week myself with these two key cards, one saying a fiery climax approaches, which I'm feeling appropriate because it is the climax of the month. It's the climax of that moon cycle. There's so many things that are wrapping up as we launch into the new that we will get into. But this one stood out to me, cool your emotions, which was the first hits for me was, yes, it's Aries, it's fire, it's action, but also feels, the emotion component and water element and the aspect of not just the fire, but again, with the arrival of Libra season, relationships are back on the scene. It feels like we got this tiny respite between Venus going direct and Mercury going direct. So it wasn't all about communications being all askew and relationships under the microscope, but actually I'm feeling that myself coming back in. So those are the two that are sort of starting it off, but we're going to do Queen of the Moon just to see what comes up, which I love doing this with us because I always pull these two for my, like I end up pulling 3 different Queen of the Moon cards by the end of all the readings I do. And it's like all the different themes that come up, kind of going back over everything. So this will be the first one. So I have nothing to compare it to. We are going to shuffle up here.
What a privilege to get
Yeah.
the Queen of the Moon
First,
for the lunation. And I just
yes.
wanted to touch up on what you said about this Venus and Mercury, because currently I wanted to say, yes, like Libra is like diplomatic sign. So, cool your emotion, let's be diplomatic here. However, Venus is still in Leo at the moment. She will not move on into Virgo until the 9th, which is what we can talk about in the next video. So currently there is what we call mutual reception between Sun and Venus, because Venus is the ruler of Sun and Sun is still the ruler of Venus. So I think Venus still is quite feisty because she's still in Leo.
Aha, so she's got a little fire of her own going on. So let's
Yeah.
see, with that in mind, what is coming up here for this Aries full moon.
But Mars is in Libra, so Mars is ruled by Venus. Oh no, again the same
So
one.
this card came up, right? And it was here when we were together that this card came up, I believe. The card of resistance, the card of resistance. So old habits, old ways, old things go slowly. Sometimes you're gonna have to pry it out of my dead fingers, they say. My cold dead hand, there's this clinging on. There's a clinging on, isn't there? That sounds familiar. We were talking just before we came on.
Yeah.
About this energy of allowing, what is culminating and coming to that fiery climax to fall away. And again, this card always brings me into that analogy of anything that we're trying to control, to hold tightly, keeps us from being able to receive, because if I'm in this fisted grip, I can't pick up anything new. I'm not open to receive. There's this tension. There's a lot of tension in that fist. And it just feels like an energy of resistance that says, we're closed rather than being open. And I'm actually going to check to see the mantra and the number 25. So we've got card 25. And the mantra for this one is, I flow through resistance and I am in control. So that's the the mantra that comes in there with this card, bringing in this energy for us as we move into this full moon.
Yeah, and this is, as we know, that this is a full moon, which is the continuation of the solar eclipse, because we had two new moons in Aries, if people remember, at the beginning of spring. So the first one was right after the spring equinox, which was the new moon in Aries number 1 on 0 degrees, and the new moon number 2 in Aries was on 29 degrees, which was actually the first solar eclipse. It was the hybrid eclipse because we still had the last moon, the last lunar eclipse. Yes, it was the lunar eclipse in Scorpio, and now we'll have the last lunar eclipse in Taurus. So it was the hybrid one. So we can see, and this is actually because I just recorded my astrological video with my friend yesterday. This is exactly what we were talking about, that there is all these culminations and new things happening like simultaneously, but there is a lot of combinations because there are so many planets in the culminating phases. Even Mars, as the ruler of this full moon, is in a closing phase with the south node. And the south node, Mars and Sun, all of them at the moment are ruled by Venus, because Venus is the ruler of Libra. So what this card also represents to me and speaks very loudly is how we try to hold on to this old way of doing things, old way of relating, because everything is relational. It's not necessarily just our relationship with our, husband or friends or something. It's a relationship we have it to everything, to our culture, tradition, everything. So that's what I feel, that it's literally cracking in its foundation at the moment, because we can see that the old way of doing things got us where we are right now, and it might not exactly be where we want to be going forward.
Yeah, absolutely. And as you say that, it's reminding me of like pulling something out by the roots, like having to pull it out from the roots and really eradicate the things that are, I'm getting like the weeds, the things that, as we tend to these spiritual gardens, or, just having an opportunity to look at. And I know this card talks about overt and covert ways that this shows up. And to your point about, it's your relationship with all things, relationships with aspects of yourself, relationships with, procrastination is one of the things that's referenced in here, but I keep feeling stubbornness. There's this stubbornness, the clinging and the stubbornness that needs to be pulled out at the roots, because we're really clearing the way. And of course, we're meeting here on the other side of the equinox that we just came into, either autumn or spring, depending on where you are in the world. And so there's been a lot of energy about the release and also the preparation that goes on to prepare for harvest or blooming season, for things to be into rebirth and blooming again. So feeling this energy of sort of, as we're seeing Mother Earth going through that process of that being reflected to us, to look at the ways in which there are some old, stubborn, clinging, and sometimes covert patterns, habits, ways of being, that even just looking within ourselves, that then ripples out into the collective, that are coming up and being highlighted here, that, as you say, are culminating. They're coming to a fiery climax in some cases. But the fiery part, I think, has a lot to do with our willingness to be in flow with change, with this transformation that's coming in, how we're going to go.
Yeah, and I also feel, because Libra and Cancer, these are two cardinal signs, because there are the 4 cardinal signs, and they represent the change, which is usually the equinox and the solstices. The Cancer season, the Capricorn season for the solstice, and the Libra and the Aries for the equinox. And Libra and Cancer are the 2 of the cardinal signs that struggle with that. Because with the Cancer is this 2 step forward, 3 steps back motion, like we're not quite sure, because there is a lot of emotional. Also with the Cancer is this also the attachment to familiarity, whereas with Libra, people think that Libra is balanced, but it's not balanced. Libra is striving for balance, is learning to become balanced, because what we usually experience with Libra people is the imbalance, that they either feel that, oh, you don't understand me, I have to completely withdraw, or they give too much. It's usually it's difficult to find a balance. It's like it's one extreme or the other extreme. So Libra usually represents extremes until we learn to balance things, which is what is going on in the world right now, because of this nodes being actually in these axes, Libra and Aries, and this is what's going to be becoming potentially more extreme, because the North Node is going to be there and the South Node is in Libra until January 2025. And now, of course, we are in Libra season. We're starting to be aware of this because this is the first season of these nodes, Aries or Libra. This is the first one since they switch, because they switch in Cancer season. So we can actually feel that now it's starting to be like tangible, like felt in our experience, that, oh, now it's hitting us. But Libra is like trying to find the balance, but first it goes through crisis because there is an imbalance. And this is what I feel is happening, that this hand, you know, is holding too tight, is representing that, like, you know, we are so like, in a sense, insecure, because again, Aries is an insecure energy because it's a new beginning. We are afraid to go into this unknown because there is this familiarity, because there is this like, oh, but it's okay, let's not rock the boat and stuff. But with this full moon in Aries, which the new one, the new moon was the solar eclipse, it's saying, no, we are starting the new cycle, ready or not. And then we can see, like in our environment, whether it's individual or collective, things need to change. They have to change. There is no going back. And one of the things we are experiencing is this struggle, this crisis, this resistance, because it's like, oh, but I don't want to, you know, I just want to put my, you know, head in the ground, you know, like this ostrich, yeah. And that's what I feel that this card could be also pointing towards.
Yeah, I think that's such an important point, is about the scales. In order to bring balance, you have to become aware of what is out of balance. And in order to do that, you experience crises, but just simply feeling what's heavy. You have to feel it. You have to feel the weight of something, or the lack of it, you know, one or the other, in order to recognize that something does need to be balanced. And so yeah, there's definitely this energy of becoming maybe hyper aware of what's beginning to no longer be sustainable, because you can't carry it. It's too heavy, or it's something that is lacking, you know, it's something that's going to, you know, but it's the squeaky wheel. It's the thing that brings it to our attention. So I'm interested to see the tarot energy that comes up with this, because we're going to do our 3 cards to know, to do, and be, right? So let's get into those so we can bring them into the conversation with our soul deck, Psychic Tarot. One of them, right? I love this one for moon cycles too. I think it works really well. So let's see what's coming up. To know. Ooh, that wanted to come out. Okay, the card of balance and harmony. The card of balance and harmony, the Lovers. Card 6.
The choice, the card of choice.
That just jumped right out. Choice, duality as well. So yeah. Okay, to know. And then to do. To do. Ooh, it's the Tower. It's disruption. Okay. Yeah.
And that soul speaks to the resistance.
Yes, it does. He's literally like arms crossed and bound.
Wow.
Very interesting.
Okay, we have 2 major arcanas going on there.
Significant energy coming in here. And then to be. And to me, I'm taking the be as like some best advice on being in this energy and navigating it. Let's see what wants to come up there.
Oh,
this one is like, you know, it's that one that you're not really getting a clear answer. Choose wisely. That's the best advice. But I see that right away as one of the directions. We've gotten this card before too.
Yeah, and this card is coming up a lot recently. Even I know in your sharecast, in your personal group and private group readings, this card has been showing up quite a bit.
Yeah, 7 of Cups definitely has been coming up. And that's because, and it's choice. Choice and choice. I mean, choice is ours. This thing is happening. These things are culminating. This energy is shifting. How am I going to experience it? The year of the Chariot, you know, the energy of being behind the driver's wheel and deciding, you know, all the things that we can't control in our outer environment can't control it as much as we want to, as much as I want to cling on. I mean, I'm feeling this resistance. We were just talking about this, is even just as we started this month, back to school, back to Slovakia. Back to school means back to the sharing of germs and the things that kids do, which has a way of, you know, affecting the best laid of plans, right? And so I'm feeling that of like, you know, you can't help it. This stuff happens, and you can have all these plans and things perfectly worked out, and something can just come along. And so I'm feeling that energy of, even just on the most basic everyday way, of resisting, you know, allowing these things that are occurring, and really focusing on how I'm going to experience it. So to know about that is, again, choice and duality. So there's both light and dark. There's both being and doing, masculine, feminine, these different aspects that are coming up to be harmonized, to be healed. And as we're saying, you know, we have to be able to feel the disharmony, to feel the things that are not aligned, in order to determine how to bring those things into alignment. So yeah, this is definitely giving me, the sixes always give me that Libra energy. I have a special spread that I do for Libra season with the sixes of the tarot, where I literally take each of the sixes, starting with this one, and looking at how that energy demonstrates for us dynamics in relationships of all kinds. Like we were saying, and not just with other people, but with things, with resistance, my relationship with resistance, my relationship with control, you know, those types of things, to know that those things are coming up and being spotlighted for us to feel the imbalance in order to bring in a rebalancing.
Yeah, but like, just seriously, just looking at these 4 cards, they speak so clearly. Like, where are we resistant to making a new choice and choosing something different potentially? Because, you know, if we don't make it, it's going to be made for us. And that's even like when we just started talking, that's what I was literally thinking, that, well, if we don't make it, if we don't make the change will be made for us, because ready or not, Pluto is moving into Aquarius next year, ready or not. And Aquarius is ruled by Uranus, and Uranus is the great awakener, is the expect unexpected. And actually, I just noticed that 3 of these 4 cards are number 7. Wasn't the first one, when you add it together, isn't it 25? Number 7, then the Tower, 16, right?
Yep.
Is number 7, and then 7 of Cups. And we are
and
in
the Chariot is 7, which is this year. 2023 is a 7 year.
Exactly,
and it's culminating in these last 3 months that we're about to head into. Yes.
Yeah. So I'm thinking, like, you know, just like looking at this card, because it is showing us that it can lead to that harmony, and, you know, this like relationships where we see eye to one another, and we are connected through the heart chakra, you know, which is being highlighted. Or we can not choose, and there'll be a Tower moment. So, you know, either way, it's going to go where it needs to go. But yeah, it's just like that. To me, it feels like really like these 3 cards, it's hard to even look at them separately, because they are so connected. The energy is so connected with them.
I was just feeling that way too. I was like, I don't think we should like talk about this one, then talk about this one, then talk about this
because
one.
I'm really struggling.
I do too. I feel the same. Even just the key words, like you said, resistance, harmony, disruption, choose wisely. You know, they definitely are weaving together the story here. There's a picture being painted.
I don't know. I feel like there is I feel like there is one card missing, because what comes after choose wisely? Because it feels to me like, oh, maybe the Tower should be after the choose wisely, but I know that it's saying that actually there will be Tower, and then you choose, because something has been maybe disrupted or taken away. But then what follows, you know? So I'm like being curious.
I like it, because actually, again, something about this card with each of those different hand signals, which I said this before, I'm sure they mean something, like each signal. And I think it's interesting that some are pointing to disruption, some are pointing to things having to come apart in order to come together. Let's find out what's on the other side.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, I love that.
Because I mean, there is the one, well, kind of like a 1.5 that's pointing to the light, which is saying that, you know, there is always everything is divinely orchestrated. And even with the tower, exactly, with the tower, there is always a divine interference, divine guidance, which to me, this is, like I keep saying, this lunation is a prelude to eclipses. And that's how I see the tower. That is but you know, like with the harmony and balance, with the card of choice, with the Gemini energy, you choose which timeline you're going to experience. And this is something that is coming up for me very strongly every video I make. You choose your timeline. So, you know, if people focus just on the like worst possible scenario, that is the one that they are most likely to experience. Now, does it mean that this thing is going to happen or is not going to happen? That, you know, I don't know. But like, choose what you want to experience. And that's, you know, where like you have the saying, where your energy goes, you know, flows.
Where your focus goes, energy flows, right?
Exactly. So what do we want to focus on? And that's why I feel with these 7, you know, 5 hands and 2, these, you know, what are they, stingrays? You know, like there is this 5 hands and 2 something else.
These are birds, I think, right?
Birds?
In flight.
Oh, wow. So either way, there are all these options that you can go for. And that's why I feel that they are all connected, you know, these 4 cards. But we know that we starting from the point of resistance. For a lot of us, we don't want to change. We just like, okay, well, I'm not ready yet. So that's why I feel like, ready or not, the tower is here.
This posture is like, no, I'm not going out of my dead cold hands. You pry it, right? That's what I'm saying. It's like you can but even like this saying, choose wisely. I feel like that's a phrase that has a little bit of like a threat, like you better choose wisely. But actually, choose wisely. When I make a decision, I want to make it from a position of wisdom. I want to be in my wise self when I'm making that decision. And you see that they are definitely in sort of like a meditative or prayerful or contemplative. They've come to the end of the dock here. You're at the end of the line. Like this, the buck stops here. Culmination, right? It's happening here. Choose wisely. Choose from the perspective, through the lens of your wise self. You know, not your disempowered, fearful self, but choose through the lens of your wise, empowered self, you know, and again, you decide, you know, how you're going to experience it, which, as we were talking, what fell out of my hand was the moon, and it's called shadow. So not only was it another major arcana card, it was the moon. Yes, the shadow. Again, the duality. It was
and
showing
the shadow, the moon always speaks of the past. Like, what do we not want to look at, you know?
And it's reflecting back on and then shining a light on. So let's see what this other card's going to be to come in and round out.
Yeah, I'm really curious.
Guidance.
I'm really curious about it.
Let's see. I must be picking things up backwards. Victory and success. And it's a 6. So
2 6s.
And 6. Yeah. So this is the 6 of Wands. Victory and success. And look at that giant moon. And this energy. Yeah. Wow.
And it's like kind of like, in a sense, it reminds me of the Fool. You know, this being on the precipice, and you know, you having this like, okay, you trumping your trumpet, but still like the Fool has his little stick, right? I don't know, it still like has like a little bit of that energy that, you know, like you choose wisely. I mean, whatever you choose at the end of the day is your hero's journey. So there's not really a wrong choice, because at some point you can, like I always say, you can always choose again, or universe might just, you know, block certain direction, or it might help you to turn around, or something might change the course of action, which I feel that is usually the time of eclipses when these things happen. But in some case, like eventually it will take you wherever you need to go. So like there is not really such a thing as horribly, terribly bad choice, because it's all about the experience and the, you know, the knowledge and the wisdom that we accumulate alongside the way. Because if you would have never made bad choice, you would never learn anything. We have to make mistakes.
That's right. And I think that's another point to what the light is shining on, is the disillusion that there's good and bad choices. You know, the idea that, yes, obviously there's some basic things that, like, is it a good choice or a bad choice for me to like walk out into oncoming traffic, you know, things like that. But I'm saying that in the grand scheme of choosing which way do I go, and being paralyzed in fear or immobility or clinging on to something for fear of the unknown. What's being illuminated is understanding that it is all a part of our journey, and that when you make that choice from an empowered place, from your wise self, you can't go wrong. Whatever comes out of it, this is something I say a lot about not being any mistakes. It's all information gathering. It's experience. And that was another thing that came up last week in these messages of staying flexible and adaptable and nimble and being able to move, as we were talking last time. It's stuff we can't make up. When I went to the Pink concert and she's, acrobatic through the air, and then I pull a card from a deck that we're going to use next time about being flexible. And it was like, hey, whatever I do, I'm going to have an experience. And after all, expansion comes through experiences of all kinds, whatever labels we put on them. So whatever choice I make, whichever direction I go, I'm going to have an experience. And that experience ultimately leads to expansion, which is what we're doing here, right? So that's a success. That's victory. And I see what you're saying too with the Fool energy, because it's kind of like coming to the ledge, coming to the edge. But I love how there's definitely like a tooting your horn, like just singing your song, communicating, whatever you do it boldly, do it, toot your horn, that's what I'm getting, like and knowing that you're safe to do so. Because whenever I see that red, it's draped in that red energy, bringing us into the root chakra, grounding in, knowing that you are safe and that we can stand our ground, sing our song, toot that horn, and there is victory and success on the horizon when you choose accordingly, choose wisely. But like I said, I want to like flip the stigma on that to say like, what if I choose the wrong one?
Really ominous, like fatalistic. Yeah, it sounds very fatalistic. But actually, the thing that two things that came to me was, the first one was, what comes to me a lot recently is, it's kind of like the antidote to the resistance, is that just move. It doesn't matter what the hell you choose, just do something, just change something, because there is this energy of resistance, which I feel that is really brewing collectively, that a lot of people, they don't want to change anything. Like, it's uncomfortable, it's scary, and it's no judgment, but I understand, it's like, and also it's like, I don't know what to do, I don't know what to do, so I'm not doing anything, so I'm being paralyzed in my sphere, in my comfort zone. Like, it's bad, but I don't know what to exchange it with. I don't know what else would be better, so I'm not going to do anything, right? So that's what I feel, that's where we are at collectively, and a lot of time individually as well, the card of resistance. And then we have this card of choice, like, and the last card, the 6 and the 6 on each end, saying that, well, whatever you chose you make, it might actually take you exactly where you're dreaming to go, because it's like with the spiritual border, it's like this crown chakra, even though 6 of Wands is fire, obviously it is the fire element, which is again the creation. What do you want to create? So I feel with the Tower and the ominous choose wisely, it's actually, it doesn't matter what you choose. It's not about what you choose. It's not about the final destination. Is just to get moving, just to keep going, because it doesn't even matter if you need to take a step back, but just don't stay in the same spot. Because now in the Virgo season, we had the opportunity to accumulate tools, perspective, perceptions, because with the Mercury going retrograde, before that Venus was going retrograde, so a lot of things have been re-evaluated. And as I heard you saying, as I heard me saying, a lot of other people, all the personal planets are now going direct. Like, yes, the impersonal, the outer planets are going still all retrograde, but they go retrograde 5-6 months every year. So we cannot stop living just, because these planets are retrograde, and they impact us in a different way. But the personal planets, Venus, Mercury, and Mars, are all going direct, and they hadn't been. In the summer, they were going retrograde, one after the other. So now I feel that, okay, now you know something you might have not known before. So just do something, whatever, just do something, little change, a little step, whatever it is that you choose, because it might just lead you where you actually hoping to go. But if you don't take the first step, you're never going to get there.
Yeah, I totally. And I feel like, well, what do? I always feel the wands are about following your inspiration, your divine sparks. What lights you up? Start there, and when you follow that path, you will be victorious and successful because you are coming from a genuine place where you are fueled by that. So it's not about the external, like, well, what should I do and what's right, what's all that kind of thing. It is like, and I feel like the stagnancy of, and again, so it would be because we've just spent all that time in retrograde, which is necessary to go back over, to be able to have the pause, the reflection, to allow our past to inform. But that was that whole determining, what am I bringing with me, extracting the gold, packing my little knapsack, and then I move. That's what's next. So we are moving into what's next. It's culminating. And, this is the key player here that says it's moving. So it will either move with you, and like you could either leap or be pushed off the ledge. Like traditionally you see the tower with people falling, same people on the ledge. But there's this energy of, but what if I jump? What if I go for it? What if I leap into the new? And again, fueled by the fire energy of my sparks of ideas and joy and the things that light me up, because that is where I am most authentically greeting the world. And so it just feels like the choice is ours and we get to decide. And this is really, this full moon is really illuminating those possibilities as far as which way we're going to go.
For sure. And I really feel that the main role that's being played at the moment, the main focus is obviously on the relationships, because the sun is shining onto our relationships. And that's pretty much what is creating this whole experience, is the relationships that we have. So the fact that we have all these important planets, like Mars, which is how Pluto acts consciously. Mars is the conscious act of Pluto, because Pluto is subconscious, because it's our psyche, it's our subconscious mind. So Mars, Sun is obviously, the luminary, it illuminates everything. And then it's this south node, which is the resolution node to the Pluto square in the nose this entire year. So this is what we know that we need to course correct, in a sense. This is what is blocking that path of evolution, which is, where did we externalize the power? Where did we perhaps follow the purpose which was not ours, but now we are like nostalgically attached to it, because, oh, well, I've invested all this time, which is like this crazy story about people waiting for the bus, and they're waiting for hours and hours, but they don't want to leave because it's the stubbornness that, oh, I already waited this long, and then I leave and it's going to turn up in 2 minutes. Like, when do we actually, like, I really feel, especially because of the wands quality, the wands energy, what is the intention? Why are we actually doing what we're doing? What's behind it, and where did it come from? And I always say, especially with this Mercury, because the card of lovers is obviously the Mercury, the Gemini. The Mercury is the ruler of the Gemini. It's like, question everything. Question everything, because now we're really living in the world where all these different timelines and realities, they all happen simultaneously, but it doesn't mean that it is or it has to be a reality. It's just question everything.
Yeah, and it's making me think too of another way of looking at the word resistance, because also the resistance, bringing a resistance up against that which needs to change, right? So, the idea of being on the other side of resistance, to say no, like to say no back to something that perhaps we've always just allowed, or just because it has always been, that we actually resist, persisting. We resist the persistence of the old ways, that do need to change. So there's an empowered way to say, I can't control, but but remember, it said that I do. There was an aspect here in this mantra of saying that I flow through resistance and I am in control. So I don't control the outer, I don't control that, but I am in control. I am in a state of being in control over that which I can resist, as well. So I feel that too, like there's either way, that gives this a sense of, again, being victorious and successful in the resistance, whether we're releasing resistance or we are standing in it, you know.
Yeah, and I feel on the other side of it, because to me that's very like the scorpionic nature of things, and obviously we are going to be entering Scorpio season next, is the resilience. That once we stop resisting it, whether it's because of the tower moment or because of different choice that we make, you know, either way, because we have the free will to choose, and if we don't choose, then the tower will choose for us. On the other side of it is resilience, because of all these multiple choices that we can go for and whatever they bring with them, because there is not a single choice you can make that's just going to bring positives with it. Everything always has polarity, so there is not a single choice that's going to have just positive aspects to it. There's always going to be a mixed bags of tricks, you know, just like the, you know, the 7 of Cups. You're going to have a mixture of energy in everything. It's like there is not a single day in the sky where everything is just positive. There's not a single chart somebody was born with that everything is just positive or just negative. You know, there is, because we live in the planet of duality and polarity. So that's why I feel at the end of that experience is resilience. And that's what helps you to grow, right? That's what we came here to do, is the hero's journey.
That's beautiful, because it's trust in the resiliency, the ability to be resilient in that no matter what happens, even when the universe does and the tower must fall or whatever it is through the resilience and the rebuilding, building back, you know, and new, that is the beautiful, it's just the necessary part of change. And so yeah, that's really beautiful to say that there is a lot of power in that, to be able to recognize that we will. That's the thing too. Like if we could just, you know, when you're in the vibration of understanding that no matter which way I go, it's all going to be as it should, you know. And so then there's a little, perhaps, I know it's hard, especially when we are really holding on, really holding on, that, you know, it's actually like, I want to see where this goes. I want to see this through and allow it to unfold, because I recognize that even in the dark moments or even through the difficulties, the struggles, that it is all happening. It's evolving for my betterment, you know, ultimately. It's just, again, a matter of being in those positions of being able to decide how I'm experiencing it, that we have some choice in the matter.
And again, it's like, what is the perception of that? Because I'm sure, because of you working with clients one-on-one, and I can attest, me working with clients one-on-one, I don't think there is a single person that they can recall even the hardest times of their life where they would say everything was bad. Everything was bad about that. Nothing good came out of it. And I wish would have never. And I mean, they could say that, but in essence, they would be lying to themselves, because it wouldn't get them where they are right here, right now. I mean, I had some clients like sharing really tragic stories with me, where I know that, you know, I shared with you the emotions I've been processing when I come across these kind of situations, where I know I have to treat very, very light, like very, you know, like with the discernment, like how am I going to approach this situation when something so like terrible might have happened to someone. But eventually, you know, trying to help people to see different aspects of whatever is the experience, at the end they come with the realization that there was something positive that came from that situation. So this is just like, you know, what you just said, that there is not really a bad choice we can make, because like looking back, it maybe gave us the tools or whatever it is that we needed to accumulate to get us through next situation or whatever else came after that. So that's why, like, everything, even though it doesn't feel like that, and I know this can get people triggered, but usually with the passing of time, looking back at life, we realize everything is always perfect. It happening exactly as it needs to happen, in order for whatever takes place next, we are ready for the next chapter. So that's why with these cards, they cannot be taken in separation, because they are actually describing life and the continuation of this cycle called life, where we always, again and again, with every season, we have the opportunity to make a choice. the choice can take us in multiple different directions, just like all these hands are showing you. It can be south, north, southwest, east, west, whatever the hell, whichever direction you want to go. It doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter, because if we don't move, the universe will create a tower moment, which will make us to move. And eventually we look back and we realize, yeah, you know, like there was some success in this story. It wasn't all perfect, but we wouldn't change it for anything. And I know that for most people who, you know, like have gone to that point in their life, when they're looking back on their life, the only thing they regret is what they didn't do.
Mhm.
So
yeah, there's so much there. I feel like it's the idea of the separation, because I was seeing that here when you were saying that. It's when you're in the belief of things being in disruption or separation. All these things are all connected to the same source. No matter which way we go, it all comes back to the same central source. So there is this energy of, it doesn't always, there's many different paths. And so it is like, which way are we going to take? And it may end up being like, you know, the scenic route, the long way, you know, the other side of town, whichever way this trip is taken, you know, versus just the highway fast route. You know, it's all a part of our unique journeys. And ultimately, when we look back, they're absolutely, through the experiences, there is expansion. And so we will always be able to come back to that central point where we can realize, had it been this way or that way, my experiences would have been so different. But ultimately, I ended up here as a result of the path that I came by. So,
and
yeah,
as you can see, every single card is pointing us to light. You know, they're
yes,
all pointing to light. So that's
yeah,
how we know that no matter what is happening, it's for our ultimate expansion, and it is connected to everything. So yeah.
it's beautiful. I mean, yeah. So I feel like, yes, there's a lot of components to this full moon.
For sure, for
So
sure.
there is stuff, but the overarching energy that's coming in that we can tap into is beautiful, and ultimately can really bring us through this trajectory to victory and success.
I
So
mean, if people want to hear the nitty-gritty traditional astrology component as oh, this is an unexpected moon, but Mars is in Libra, expects arguments and all this. Like, yes, you can find a lot of these videos out there, I'm sure. So this is not the kind of video, this one right here. So what we're really trying to tap into is this energetical potential of what this might be offering us, this lunation. And yes, we can look at it from whichever choice, whichever way you want. You can look at it whichever way you want, and either way you're right or wrong. It doesn't matter, because it's all this Gemini that, you know, everything is true and everything is lie. It just depends on your perception, right? But
yeah,
I really feel that we are entering a very, very I mean, we're already in it, these transformative times, but we are really entering now the time of action, because we are in a masculine energy now. Obviously there will be feminine energy coming after that, but right now this Libra season, because of the eclipse component that is going to be, we speak about it next time we meet, there is going to be some action.
yeah. Culmination into action. So it's going to be go time. So that's what we're firing up the cylinders for. So
choose wisely.
yeah, so choose wisely. good luck, you know.
But don't worry, because there is no wrong choice.
We'll meet back here to find out how it went for each of us on our journey.
In 2 weeks, like, oh. Anyway, so let's wrap this one up, so we can talk about the other things in the part 2. But thank you again, Marisa, and please tell people about your offerings for this lunation.
Absolutely. So yeah, I have a whole bunch of things going on right now. I do have an equinox spread that's available throughout the season. So I have an autumn spring equinox offering. This week in the empowerment pack, we'll be diving into this full moon and doing our full spread and personal oracle cards. So that's always something to come along for. And then I am also going to have the Libra relationship special offering that looks at the sixes of the tarot and goes deep into a relationship of your choosing. So those are my 3 main offers right now for the season.
That's
And what about
awesome.
you? You have some news to share, right? We can find you somewhere new.
Yeah, I just want to still talk about your offerings because I am very excited to hear about my equinox reading.
Oh
Because
yeah,
already gave me some little
some
breadcrumbs to be
little
excited
breadcrumbs.
about. But also with this relationship thing, I just think that it's such a important thing to really like for people to really evaluate and reevaluate like what it is that we're really doing and how we want to be doing it going forward. So yeah, so I mean, and all your readings and offerings are super affordable, as you know we keep discussing that they may be too affordable. but so I highly recommend it. I'm so grateful to be working with you for now. I mean, what is it, like 7-8 months? So it's been great journey. And yeah, with regards to me, I have my website up and running now, so people can find all my offerings, which will be expanding as my courses will be completing. So I'll be introducing more services later on down the line. But as of now, all my offerings on my website, www.moonlightsoul369.com. And yeah, you can find everything there. And of course, you can still find me on all the social medias as well. So that's it.
Awesome. Okay.
So we wrap this one up. Thank you for listening, everyone. And we'll see you in part 2 next week. Much love and thank you again. Bye.